The video is, we recorded it of our actual reunion, and it's on I have an adoption blog called myadoptedlife.com, so if you'd like to go and see the video of our reunion, you can see it there in the top left-hand corner of the blog, My Adopted Life. And this is my birthfather, Jerry White.
This is my daughter.
Trish, speak loud.
Patricia McDonald, who found me after 42 years, not knowing. I didn't
Scoot in.
I had no idea.
Scoot closer.
It was a remarkable experience.
Thanks.
We'll talk about it a little bit. I'm sure some of you will have questions you'd like to ask us, particularly about what it is to be a birth father. It's a unique experience, I can tell you that. If you haven't known you've had a child. She came to me when I was 70. She's 42. Fully grown. Diaper, no more. Education, she was raised probably better than I would have raised her, because I was spanked her butt more than parents had. And that's something that I would like to talk to you about. When you're a birth parent, you have to learn all new terms. It's a new world. It's something I was not prepared for. And thank God she knew I was a quick study and did enough to read so that I didn't screw it up in the beginning. She gave me several books, and I'll let her tell you about those books. I was very thankful to receive them, and I know it saved our reunion. She had a bad reunion, a difficult reunion with her birth mother. And she found her birth mother first after looking for only 2 weeks. And because she was not prepared herself for the reunion on her birth mother, it made it very difficult for both of them. So that reunion being difficult made ours so much easier because she had the answers that she gave to me. Now, I'm a control freak. She is also a control freak. We have a lot of things in common. We find that genetically, I believe, is tied to each other. We think about things the same way. I still finish her sentences. I'm working on it, but it's still hard not to do. I equate our relationship to being like a twin that was found after years of not knowing each other. But I think we have much in common. I would like to tell her to tell you just briefly what it was like for her and what she thought before she found me. And I know when she came to me, she had this bad experience, and she really thought what she was going to find was maybe a fellow with tattoos, drove a truck. They went out Friday night, shot pool, and chased women, probably left her without ever thinking about her at the beginning. I'll let her tell you what it was like for her first.
Okay.
Is that good? Okay.
Picking back up where Bob left off, when I went out to find my birth mother, my adopted mother had just passed away a year and a half before, and they had told me that it would be years and could be 10, 15 years before you find your birth family when you start searching. So I did not expect to find my birth mother within 2 weeks of searching. So as he said, I was unprepared. We broke every rule in the adoption reunion handbook guide. Too fast, too furious, no understanding of boundaries. Neither of us had processed any of the grief or thought about what are we expecting. And so it came to a very nasty head after about a year and a half with her. One of the difficulties of our reunion was she had told me when the very first day we met, which was the very first day we connected, that I was a product of rape. And in my heart of hearts, I didn't believe it. And I didn't know why, but it had something to do with how easily she told this to me. And the more I read about adoption issues and how birth mothers must process the trauma that's happened to them over the years and those who don't, I began to think that this was the story she had told her mother early on, and it was something that she was clinging to. So after a year and a half, I said, I don't think we have an honest relationship. I don't think I can move forward in this relationship until you can tell me really what you know about my birth father.
Now, this is where I'm going to jump in. I would say about this point is when I was searching a website called classmates.com, and I I joined that site maybe a year or two before, and I found it to be a site where they're just trying to get $2.95 from me every time you had an opportunity to go there. A little card came up, so you have a visitor, so I went and looked. And what popped up was a lady's name I hadn't thought about in at least 20 years, but that I hadn't known or seen in over 42 years, Lana Williams. The minute I saw it, I knew I was going to have a child. I was correct. It did take her a period of 3 weeks to finally get to the point and tell her that she thought she had failed to tell me something throughout the communication we've been having the previous 3 weeks, more or less. But the long story and the short story, I'm going to make it short. I happen to be a parent who knows exactly where her child was conceived, the exact date that she was conceived, because this was a one-time thing. Blessing in fact, but it was a one-time thing. And then she showed up. Yeah, you can take it there. If I think of something else, I'll think of it.
So Lana, her name was Lana, is Lana, and she very quickly set about to find the man that she had come to terms with and realized was the father. We're still unclear as to whether the facts behind how things came about, but what she had explained to me later was that she realized that the last person that you have an encounter with is not necessarily the person that got you pregnant. And the real kind of urban cowboy love story around this was that the person that she felt had raped her, she said raped her, was a buddy of Bob's, who he was running around with at the time. And he was a married man with children in Oklahoma. And when he told her he will not be leaving his wife for her, she seduced Pop on the night of her 20th birthday. And they had an evening together. And that evening created me. And then 2 weeks later, she told this other fellow about the event of my creation, at which time I think that he roughed her up. They were at a bar. Ironically, they were at a bar, and Pop saw them leave together and looking like they were arguing. And I think that was the night that he had his way with her, perhaps against her will, and that was the night that she believed that she had conceived all these years. So when she went into therapy after I asked her to think about being honest with me. She went into therapy and found the truth through a therapist who asked her, "Is there anyone else that you could possibly think of?" And this is what she told me she found. That's when she realized it could be him. She went searching for him, and then one of the boundaries that I felt was crossed was rather than come to me and say, "I know who your father is, I think, I'd like to give you his information and let you do with it what you would like." Instead, she found him on classmates.com, and they connected, and she told him everything that there was to know about me, including my Facebook information.
Over a 3-week period of time.
And at that time, I would not have searched for my birthfather. I didn't think I was ready for another reunion.
And this came to me in a very brief sentence. I get a paragraph one day about her whole life for 40 years, talking about her birthday. Sending small pieces, bits of information along about who she had been, what she had learned, who her husband was, their expectations for their future. And then she told me about having been pregnant and having a child and eventually giving it up for adoption. This story was told to me before she told me, of course, that I was the father. I think all of you know out there, the first minute that I heard, I told you earlier, that I knew I was the father, and she was holding back information from me. She at one point said that she really did not want to search for Ben any longer. She didn't really want to find the real father, which left me kind of wondering if she's ever going to tell me the true facts. I did find out, and I asked her kind of sneakily, I knew that I'd been to her birthday party the night of her conception. So I asked her, I said, isn't your birthday like a week before mine? She gave me the date, so I knew what date she would have been conceived. And later she gave me the birth date of a child that was at the hospital, when she was at the hospital that day, that she said was January the 22nd, I believe.
December.
Or December the 22nd. Anyway, I did the math, and it came out 180 days from her birthday. That's exactly the date of the conception period of time for a human child. So I really didn't need a DNA test, but she did for sure. She really doubted whether or not she was getting any truth from the birth mother at that time. This gets kind of interesting, thinking about it. I think you were a doubter because she sends me a legal document, more or less, after she's found out that I am probably her father could be. And she explains to me all the rules of our meeting. One, I cannot call her daughter. I can refer to her as Pam or Patricia. Or as a birth father. And she will refer to me as birth father. The conditions are very long. And I wrote her back and told her I would accept her terms willingly. And she said, well, we need to do a DNA test. I said, no problem. She said, well, we should find one close. I said, no problem. When I hung up, I called here in Austin, got the name of the center that would do the testing, and paid them her fee and my fee. Called her back and told her that she was paid up. She was there within 3 hours of the test. I was there the next day. The hard part was waiting the next 4 days. You want to talk from there? I hope we're covering most of your questions.
I know it's a lot of information.
Anybody have a question yet? So we're doing a pretty good job.
So we had my concern with her finding him was that she had called my husband, and asked him to steal some of my DNA so she could get it tested.
Oh my goodness!
To find out if I was, because she didn't think I was capable of handling the truth, she wanted to find out first and then let me know. And my husband said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to steal my wife's Q-tips. I think you just need to let her know you found them. And I hate to say it, but what I thought was, like he'd said, I didn't quite say I was worried about a tattooed truck driver. There are plenty of great tattooed truck drivers out there. I really thought it would have been like a meth head or something. I was very worried that he could have been just completely disinterested, did not want to have any kind of reunion with me, wouldn't even remember the event kind of thing. And so that's why when I got this information from her, I'm thinking, I don't want this, I'm not ready for this. And then I thought, there's this poor 70-year-old man who now thinks that there's the possibility of a child out there in the world. I can't let him go, the rest to his grave, wondering if he has a child in the world. I have to do this, whether I want to do it or not. And so then I wrote him a letter, which he said was like a legal document. It was very, very full of boundaries.
Specific.
And then he wrote me back what I called the cowboy poet letter, which was just, just kind and sweet and endearing, and whatever your terms are is fine. He said, if we just meet once and it helps you heal your heart and makes you feel like you're one full person again, then I would feel that it has been worthwhile, and that would be enough for me. That's what it takes to heal your heart. And then I knew that he didn't have these major expectations of me, and that he really did want to be there for me. And that was when I began to trust the situation. And then we emailed back and forth. We said we would not talk on the phone until we knew what the results were. By the time we'd sent back all these different emails and pictures of one another, we said on the day that we were waiting for the test to come in, we said, if it's a positive, well, this coming weekend I'll get in the car and I'll drive to Rio Frio because he lives just about 2 hours, about an hour past Fredericksburg. I'll drive out there to your place and we'll have margaritas and steak and celebrate. And if it's a negative, I'm getting in the car, I'm driving to your place, we're going to have margaritas and steaks, and we're going to cry on each other's shoulders about our loss.
I'm going to interrupt just for a second. What made this all work was having an understanding of life. Keep in mind, thank God it's only 34 years. She came at a time in my life when I was single. My wife and I have 2 children, one stepchild, she has a son, I have a son, which we raised together at the time they were 12. So we both had boys. Neither one of us had ever thought we'd have a daughter. In the my amazement, my wife said, when the DNA test came back, we now have a daughter of us. So she was completely accepting of Pam, and she allows me to have all the time I need with Pam, for us to have our reunion, to learn to understand each other and share our experiences we've already had with one another, which allowed us to bond to the degree that we have today. And I keep thinking it can't get any better than it does. It just gets better. I learned things about her. We just had a kind of a second reunion with my sister, who I had fallen apart from. She's 10 years older than I. We just didn't associate for 28 years. So I took her to meet my sister, and I to meet my sister again after all this time. And that was another reunion, which was a really wonderful thing to have. She got to meet her cousins, which, by the way, I told you I don't know anything about adoption, and I was floored by it. But my sister had 3 adopted children, because she couldn't have children. So she has a unique experience of being accepted into a family that has adopted children. I was adopted children. Welcome to open arms. And they bonded instantly.
It was a very interesting thing because you're going to meet your biological family's family. And I get there. This is my biological aunt, and she has 3 adopted children. And those 3, so I'm meeting biological family that's adopted. And these 3 adopted girls cling to me. Well, the 2 adopted girls, 1 adopted guy, they just rush at me and they cling to me, and we were just, adoptees in general, when you meet them, you just know you're already in this sisterhood, brotherhood, this kinship of souls. And then what I especially realized about it, and then I felt anxious about it, because I thought, oh my gosh, I look so much like my aunt, Patricia, whose also his name is Patricia. And here are these girls who are in their 40s, 50s, seeing someone who looks just like their mother. And they've always wondered, what would my mother's child look like? And here I am. But they weren't envious of that or jealous of that. They were very accepting and warm with that. And I understood them on a level already just from being an adoptee that allowed us to connect. But what Pop was very surprised at is how after, they only remembered him from when they were very little, and how they were saying, we need to have a reunion, and we found you, we won't let you go again. And I explained to him, I said, what's special to them is that when their mother passes, you and I are the only connection they have to their mother's family. That we are their connection to their family's history. And as an adoptee, that means so much to not run out of family, Anyway, that kind of got off track. We just did that this past weekend.
Can I go back in there for a second? She had produced a Christmas present for me that was a book of photographs and pictures and writings between the 2 of us, including the DNA test that she gave me for Christmas. And it was 12 pages, very well done. And I was preparing and asked her, it was my sister's 80th birthday, like 3 weeks ago. And I had asked her to prepare a copy of that for my sister, because I was intending to do a reunion with my sister. I hadn't talked to her. And while this book is in publication, I get a call from one of my nieces asking if I have any pictures or photographs of her sister, or of her mother, because her birthday is coming up. So it's natural. Things like that can happen. It seems like we talk about it, the universe opening up and giving you a little crack. And you best step through it if you want to go any further. But if you don't, it's allowed to close the door. But we keep stepping through and stuff keeps happening. It just is a wonderful experience.
After 30 years apart, in the span of 10 months' time of this reunion, his sister's niece contacts him in the exact same month that he's found her address and is going to contact his sister. So you just know these things are supposed to be happening. You just feel it all around you. One of the things you'll probably want to go into, but I had the privilege right after we reunited of being able to come out there and visit. A friend of his had a cabin, and she let me stay there for 3 weeks. We reunited July the 16th will be a 1-year reunion for us.
That much to
By August, I was beginning in my book about my adoption journey in a cabin next to Pop. And he would come down in the evenings and we would sit. And I was in therapy, and my therapist said about all this, and my therapist told me, be sure that you spend time alone, because you have to feel free to be the father and the child together.
We're walking around holding hands all the time, hugging each other at the blink of an eye.
And gazing into each other's eyes, and it looks like romantic love and to other people, and it isn't. But you have to find those times and those spaces to share that time, so that you kind of get it out of your system. So so we're not scaring his wife to death, So that,
Or her husband.
yeah, or the son. And so we did that for that 3 weeks that I was there. He would come in the evenings, and I mean, one night we literally sat. There was a bar with chairs, and we literally sat across on these little bar stools. Didn't even think there's a couch over here, right? For 5 hours, we're sitting on bar stools, holding each other's hands, looking straight in each other's eyes, talking, telling every single story there is to tell. But one thing that we did in that space and time where we were together was we said, for this time period.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
It's actually, we didn't make that agreement at that time, as I recall. Of course, we both discussed it.
I thought we were doing a pretty good job of it. Go ahead.
Well, you're trying to control my conversation. We decided to go on a daughter-father fishing trip. And with my wife's permission, we're going to do this for 3 days. And we're going to rent a cabin, we're going to stay in it together, we're going to get a boat, and we're going to go out and we're going to talk to each other until we're talked out. And we promise each other one thing on these 3 days. We can ask any question of each other, and we have to answer it truthfully, or not answer it at all. Be careful what you ask. Goes both ways. In that 3 days, we learned everything I think I ever want to know about it. I believe she answered.
Things you did.
And a few things I didn't want to know. That's all right. I didn't have to deal with those problems her parents had to.
But that's part of the beauty of a positive reunion experience. And I try to every day count my blessings, because I know I'm so lucky that this happened, because not everybody has this, what I have. And I try to be sensitive to that when I'm talking to other adoptees and that sort of thing. But we had during that period of time, because I had read up on everything, as magical and wonderful as it is, you have to keep in mind that there's all these family members all around you, and they're all giving up time so that you can have this time with the other person. And husbands are feeling like, oh my gosh, my wife is falling in love with someone else, and not romantic love, but all these things she turned to me for, I was wanting to share with Pop. And his wife is seeing him, this guy who used to sit on his couch and, only got up when he needed, go to the end of the driveway or something, is now saying, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, maybe I'm in love. But you yourself said you were kind of stuck and not so interested in participating in life, and now you're wanting to go on long fishing trips
Yes,
tour the country.
my emotion. I was still farming, I was still working, I was still doing it.
Emotional.
Yes. Well, the other side of this coin I didn't tell you is that I have a heart condition. I have a valve that needs to be replaced. And the doctor told me 3 years ago in 6 months. Now, since she's came in my life, the doctor's told me it's the best medicine I possibly had. Keep putting it off, keep putting it off, keep putting it off. But she has treated me through this like I'm going to fall over any minute. Those little toys you push down, bounce back. That's what I've been feeling like for the first 3 months of our union. I couldn't take a step. She'd think I'm going to fall down and die. I keep telling her that's not the case. I'll be around for a while. This will fix me for 10 years. She's now getting to the point she'll say that. But she was treating me like I was so precious. She's going to put me in a box and report me someplace else.
Within a month of meeting him, he told me he could need to have open heart surgery in 3 months. And so that was that was part of the rush to spend time together. I didn't tell you, probably, after the end of that fishing trip, on which our very first fish we caught was a 50-pound catfish.
Wow.
By the way, that was on a worm on 112-foot, little tiny fish. It didn't have any live bait, So I put this worm on the hook for fishing. You're going to have to fish if you're in a boat. You're going to talk. You just have to. And drink beer, of course. We're doing both of those things. And I toss it over the side and it starts bothering me. It's kind of a nuisance for a minute. It's bothering me harder while I'm talking. So I get hold of it and I go, geez, this is a fish. And about 15 minutes later, and I'll get it up the side of the boat, and I'm getting a little excited, she's really excited. I tell her to get the net. Well, I have a dip net in the bottom of the boat we catch minnows with. She gets this little net, she says, this ain't gonna work. I said, no, the big one, the one that's standing underneath the boat. She gets it out, she gets the fish in the net, and I look over, and it's way out here, and she's bending over the side, and feet are off the floor. And I know she's gonna let go. I'm not letting go. So I reach over, grab her by her back, pull her back. I think it might be wrong. Stout anyway. Got her back in the boat, and she gets the fish in. And after it's over, she says, I want to turn that fish loose. I was afraid to pull me in, and you jump in and you drown. And I said, what, do you think that fish is that important? She said, no, I thought maybe you'd come after me.
The beauty of these stories is that when we do things like this, what we've learned through them is how much we react to scenarios in the same way. Before I met Pop, I would have said that nurture was everything, especially when I met my birth mother and didn't find any connection to her. I really just couldn't believe the DNA because we seemed so different. We didn't gel at all. And then I went through this whole phase of, I didn't give my adoptive parents enough credit for all the things they've done for me. And I'm so sorry because they both passed away and I didn't have a chance to thank them for all the things they gave me. And so I was really, really amazed at how much of myself how much I've come to understand about myself by recognizing, by seeing myself in Pop and